I'm Jackie Doucette, and I'm on a mission to discover exactly what life is like beyond retirement. Join me while I chat with people who've already done it, who've retired to something rather than from something. Let's find out together exactly what's waiting for us when we say goodbye to that 9 to 5. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. I'm really excited today because I'm joined by Dr. Sher Downing, who's the CEO and EdTech strategist at Downing EdTech Consulting. Hi, Sher. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So generally what I do is I start out with just an overview of who you are, how you got to where you are today, because generally we don't start off aiming at where we end up. We're on a different path by the time we get where we're going. So I just want to know how you got where you are now.
Certainly. So I always preface it to say I'm one of those people that as a young child, I had a lot of varied interests, lots of different things. I never was one of those people that said, here's the career I'm going for. And got out of college and was working in my major area, really wasn't enjoying it, but it was okay. Got into my husband took a transfer, so took a job just to get into a community college system. And one day the boss came to me and said, we've got this new project. The president just came back from a conference and everyone's talking about this new issue of distance education. And we don't know what it is, but he wants us to implement it. So do some research, figure out how to do it. And so that's exactly what I did. And, 35 years later, 4 degrees, several certifications, a career path, with the last role being a vice chancellor, found this niche in the world of EdTech, which is, education, technology, not a real clear path laid out in the world. We were all learning as we were building and moving along, and technology became much more innovation. So it really was the perfect spot for me. I was one of those people that embraced all the chaos. Unlike everyone else who ran from it, I thought it was fabulous because that's the way I've always been. And so really had a wonderful career in just helping people understand online learning, understanding how to train online, and be able to work with students and corporate training over the years. And so now 35 years later, entering phase 2, as I jokingly call it, of my career, but, using all of that knowledge and experience and bringing it forward.
It's wonderful. So, you just kind of fell into exactly what you needed.
Yep. Who knew there was actually a spot for me?
I'm sure there's a spot for everybody. We just sometimes don't figure out where it is until quite a lot later in our life.
Exactly.
So looking at your website, you help people who are solopreneurs, you help entrepreneurs who are trying to move their business forward a little bit further. You help people who are just trying to learn more about technology and things that are going on. How do you help people who are maybe moving on to the next phase, their phase 2, and they're not really sure what's next?
Certainly. It's interesting because I just watched a masterclass and author Elaine Welchford said, the thing that you should do is go back to your young self. And this really resonated with me because she said, what did you love doing when you were young? Not the teacher told you to become a fireman or the teacher told you to become a policeman, but what did you really love? Because that's truly your passion. That's where your passion began. But the world kind of trains you where you should go, as opposed to doing what you want to do. So I think, the pandemic really kind of brought this home for all of us of not really enjoying what I'm doing, or maybe I want to go do something else, or maybe I get an opportunity to take early retirement and actually go back to doing what I love. So what we try to do, myself and my team, is work with people to figure out what is it that you want to do and how do we get you there. Sometimes it's just doing research and giving you opportunities and options to know what's available out there. A good example right now is people that have been in academia for a long, long time feel like there's no other path. Once you retire from academia, you just kind of retire. Well, there's these new roles in the world called UX researchers and UX, investors. And these are people that they really want you to have a research background. They really want you to have this understanding of how to do qualitative and quantitative methods. They want to understand, how customers, the user experience, how they work through things. So academics are fitting in very nicely into that new role. But many times people don't realize that's what that is. They hear it, sounds like a tech term, sounds like it's a tech job, not something I can do. So we help them try to figure those things out. Other people want to start their own business, and it could be any business in the world, but we now live in a time where you need to have an online store, you need to have, an online newsletter, you need to really reach out using technology. How do you set up a sales page so you can take a credit card or, Square funding, all of these things. And so we really just try to help the relationship between people and technology. And what's really fun right now is that age group of people who are going into phase 2, who are knowledgeable, who know what they like and dislike, who no longer have concern over saying what they like and dislike. They're finding their freedom. And so we really want to help them figure that out and coach them through and connect them to the right people, the right technologies, the right vendors, and just move them forward.
What you said at the start, that, that really resonated with me, because that's exactly what I do with my clients. I take them back. They don't know what they want to do. So I say, what did you do when you were a kid? When you had time on your hands and nobody was telling you what to do, what did you do? Because that's the way you figure out what you really like.
Absolutely. And I think, we're the age group, we're talking about the baby boomers, and now, we sort of get called Gen X, depending upon where you fall into the timeline. But we were the people that really came through the process of being told, this is what you should do. This is where you should go. This is how high you should climb the ladder. And that's exactly what everybody did. And then they got to the top of the ladder and it wasn't that great, or they accomplished everything they wanted to. And then something like the pandemic hit and everyone took a step back and thought, wow, my life can change in an instant. And how did I make my mark in the world? How did I do what I wanted to do? How do I feel about what I do every day? I jokingly tell people, I say, the pandemic was horrible, but I think it also was a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. And for us, it really brought out people's ideas of, how do I make this work? And we said, well, let us help you figure out how to make it work. You just worry about the dream and the concept, and we'll figure out the steps to get there.
So if someone was going to work with you, do they just contact you and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing? Or do they have to have some kind of idea what they want to do first?
We can do it both ways. So I actually just got one the other day that came through our website, filled out our contact sheet, and said, really interested in launching a product. So my assumption was they actually had a product in mind. And when I reached out, they said, I just really want to launch something. And I don't have to actually figure out what that is. So, I think for a lot of us, a lot of times, especially how we've been trained, if you come from a strong business background, if you've worked in corporate, you know how to launch a product, you know how to launch a service. So you have all of those pieces. You may actually not have the widget that's going to go out. So then, do you want to partner with someone? Do you want to invest in something? Can we introduce you to someone and bring you together who's got the greatest widget on earth, but can't figure out how to get it out of the door and get it in front of an audience? So sometimes it's just helping them connect as well, and then working them together through the process. So, we welcome anybody, whether they're just kind of toying with an idea, or if they've got something solid. And we'll also do some research. We'll talk to them about what's available, what's already out there, who's your competition. Is it worthwhile going after, or is it making it a little more niche to make it better? We're all about just helping them figure it out.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you were mentioning before that, all the different steps, whether it's building the online store, having a newsletter, doing whatever. Do you help them do that, or do you connect people with the service that will help them build their shopping center, or build their mall or whatever?
Sure. So it depends on what they're using, or if they want recommendations of a product or platform. We do have people on our team that can help them do that, and we can build that in as part of the service. Sometimes people come to us. I have one client whose nephew does everything. He's, I don't know, 12, 13, I think now. And she tells everyone he's available. If you need something, he's your guy, So that's fine. We work with him, coordinate, tell him, what needs to get done. He gets it done, and we take on the rest. So, but we do have a full team of designers and graphic designers. We even have a voiceover person if you're wanting to have a certain, flair or sound to your brand, your product. We also, work pretty much with a lot of the startup and incubators in the U.S. We try to at least have a good relationship with them where we can, recommend when it's time you move on. Maybe you need to go through something. We get a lot of people who really would like to experience the full startup. And by experience, they want to be in with other people who are doing a startup. They want to understand what it's like to go to boot camp and those kinds of things. So we always keep relationships with schools and businesses that are doing that. So we can also refer you. If you're in a certain location, we'll do some research and find out what's available to you locally, because oftentimes people don't realize how much is in their backyard, how much they can do online. So, we'll do just some research for them and get them started that way, if that's easier. Sometimes it's, some people want to go slow and kind of dip their toes in the water and get started. And some people just want to plunge into the pool and just start swimming. So we, part of what we do when we talk through it is figuring out, what's your comfort level and what are you prepared to do? Obviously, things cost money. So are you wanting to put money into this right off at the get-go? Or are you wanting to, get as many free services and options out there in the world that you can before you actually invest in something? Yeah. So that's more of a Chamber of Commerce, one-time fee for membership, but lots of free workshops. Here's all the books you can check out at the library. Here's all the websites that you can connect with information. So we'll help them figure out and kind of create a path and a plan for, when they actually want to start spending money and when they want to start investing in help, when they start thinking, okay, it's time, I need to start doing more than this. Okay. So you're talking about planning, and that is one of the themes for this season of the show. I've been trying to draw things into generosity, confidence, freedom, planning. And planning is definitely where you're going to be able to help the listeners if they want to move forward with anything at all. That's the way that I see it. Absolutely. Planning is so important in these. And again, it doesn't mean you have to know the product, and it doesn't mean you have to know the end result, but you have to start thinking of this. I like to think in quarters, every 90 days. So big overview for a year, and then breaking that down into quarterly chunks. What is it that's going to have to be done? But you also have to start to think about, when are you going to start spending money? Where is that money going to come from? Most of the people that are doing a second career obviously have some funds already set aside, or they may have something they can tap into. So, they're not like a traditional startup where they're kind of scraping and trying to find investors right off the bat. But at the same time, you also don't want to spend your entire retirement fund to try to launch something and then find out it doesn't work. Yeah, so, exactly. We start talking about what's that plan going to look like? How many years are you going to want to work on this? So think of it just like when you do financial planning. You start to plan, what's that year you're going to retire? What's that age? What do you need to have in order to get there? So we start talking about, if you launch this, how long are you willing to put into doing this? Products take time. Products take social media. Products take money and interest. What are you looking at doing besides this? So if you're wanting to start a business, but you're also planning on traveling 9 months out of the year, we need to find you something that's going to fit, that you can do that from wherever. A good example of that is, if you want to open a bed and breakfast, you really can't be gone 9 months out of the year for a bed and breakfast. You really kind of need to be on site, really getting things going till you get to a point that you can, launch that out. If you're doing a fully online store, as long as you can get your supplies and get everything in place, it doesn't really matter where you're sitting working on your computer. But then the question becomes, like your background that you've got hanging there, is that where you want to be sitting and working, or do you just want to be sitting there? So, we try to figure out what it is that you're going to do, how you're going to plan for this, how you're going to plan for things that change in your life. Is this, the downfall of, as we hit this stage in our life, is lots of things can happen in rapid succession. So planning for how you're going to work through those processes is important. And then also just planning on, what's this going to look like? Is it going to be a singular person, an LLC? Are you looking at a partnership? Are you eventually looking at a C Corp? And what's it going to take to get to those? And then what kind of timeline are we going to lay out, and what kind of milestones are we going to lay out within there? So the people that are successful have already been thinking about what they're going to do when they retire, long before they get there. And it's the same for starting any sort of business or taking on any sort of investing into someone else's business, is really thinking through all of these things ahead of time.
It sounds like a lot of work, kind of scary, actually, all the things that you need to have thought about before you hit the I'm retired now, what am I going to do point. You don't want to be there with a blank slate, really.
But I think also, it can be done in an exciting way. So, if you think 2 years from now, I'm going to retire and I would love to own an online shop. And what is that shop going to have? Well, maybe I do ceramics and I would love to, sell my ceramics around the world. So then we start talking about, okay, where are you doing ceramics now? Do you have a home studio? Is that going to be part of it? Are you just going to rent space? How are you going to, cover costs for that? We start talking about, how are you going to build a customer base? Do you have one now? So if people have been buying things from you off and on, maybe the holiday season, maybe friends and relatives, can you gather testimonials? You may already have a short audience right there, and you can start to use them to push out that information. Websites are pretty easy to build nowadays. They've made them pretty much click and play, but we can also help you with that if you need that. So, for $20 a month, $30 a month, you can have a viable website out there and just start to get some snapshots of your product and start to push things out. You can start that slowly while you're still working, knowing that in 2 years, full bore, I'm going to be, producing ceramics all year long, not just for the holiday season, and move it forward. So when you start thinking of it that way, it's less about the tactical pieces and it's more exciting about, wow, in 2 years, I'm going to be doing what I love, and I'm going to be selling, and these are going to be shown all over the world. So, we try to take it from that approach, which is, this is going to be a lot of fun, and this is going to be really exciting for you to do what's next in your life.
Whole lot better perspective than, oh my God, that's so much stress. Do you ever have people that come to you and they're excited, they've got their plans, they're going through things, and as you move along helping them, they suddenly realize, no, I think I just want to sit and be on that beach. I don't want to be doing work from there.
Sure.
Do you have people that do that?
I do. Sometimes it sounds a lot more intriguing to be on your own. And I think going back to the pandemic, everyone's always said, boy, people that get to work from home are so lucky. Sure wish I could work from home. And then everyone gets at home. And, a percentage of people were like, this is fabulous. I'm in my PJs, I'm working, I'm getting twice as much done. I don't have a commute. And other people were like, yeah, I'm kind of lonely. I'm here all by myself. I'm not at the water cooler talking to people throughout the day. I really am not liking this at all. I need that atmosphere to keep me moving, to keep me motivated. I'm not getting as much work done because I get bored or distracted. Well, the same is true when you're starting a business. Sometimes you think it's a really great idea. And then when you realize you're in charge of absolutely everything, decisions, as well as fun things. For some people, they figure out that's not really what they thought it was going to be. And so then it's a matter of, how do we do this differently? Do we find you a partner? Is there something already out there that maybe you could work with? I had one individual who wanted to take their photography and move it forward, and really figured out that the joy of photography is just that, taking the photos. Takes beautiful photos. People love them. People want to buy them. But the idea of, shipping and handling and mailing labels and all of that. So she brought in someone who handles all the business, all the tactical stuff. And what she does is come in and say, I took 25 new shots, let's get them edited. They get them cleaned up. They get them ready to go. Great. Need these on the website. And so it's a real marriage made in heaven, because this individual working with her is someone who's a very type A, detail-oriented person who just loves just handling everything and taking control of it. And so that's where you start to recognize where's your strengths and your weaknesses, and where can we find people to fill those gaps for you. And so now she does her photos 6 months a year, and the other 6 months, which she scatters, but she takes like a month off at a time and goes and does something. And this person keeps everything going and makes sure emails get answered, and, out of office says what date she'll be back in the office. And it works out really, really well. So, it's never about giving up. I think it's just about the reality of starting to recognize where your strengths are. And then once we get those identified, then we start figuring out, well, how can we help you in the weakness area? How do we fill that in? Whether that's something we do for you, or we connect you with someone, or we tell you about a service that's out there. A lot of people sell through online companies because they take care of the bulk of that stuff. And, you just have to put your pictures up and set your price and walk away, and you get notified when somebody buys something. So, there's always something out there that can help you be dynamic and fruitful in what it is you started out to do. You don't have to throw the idea out the window. You don't have to, throw it away unless you really just want to walk away from everything. And if that's your choice, then you're better off doing it, because you're not going to be successful if your heart's not in it.
Right,
but
exactly.
If we want to kind of delve it out a little bit, we can do that and help you figure that out.
Oh, that's good. So it doesn't have to be kind of, oh, I'm slogging through this, doing it because I decided I was going to. There's a way to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit.
Exactly. And I think right now, that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out, is where they're at and what they want to do. And is what they want to do really viable? Nobody wants to open the door and nobody comes in the store. So part of that too is, helping them figure out, is this really going to be a viable business, or, is it an offshoot of something else? Or maybe you had something else that you thought wouldn't be, that maybe is more viable. We all have those things where, oh, I'd love to do this, but nobody will buy that, so I'm going to do this over here instead. And sometimes that's not always the case.
So what you're saying, I guess, is that anybody, any hobby, anything at all could end up being a viable business if someone wants it to be, but you'll help them sort out which of those hobbies might be more fruitful than another. If they're looking at, if they're kind of balancing out two things and they're equally interesting, one of them might be more fruitful than the other.
Exactly.
I think, guess.
I think you're absolutely right. The difference is that sometimes it just takes talking through with someone to get a different perspective, or someone to say, oh, I've already seen that out. There's 3 or 4 of those. But I think also it's just talking through and hearing out loud for really the first time. This is my pitch. This is my pitch for my ideas. Here's someone who has no connectivity to me, who's going to tell me point blank, what the options are. Yeah. And sometimes we just need that. I think we all do, to just kind of figure out where we're going and what we're doing next. So one of the things that we do is we offer an on-demand service through Clarity FM. And you can just have a short call, a long call, it's up to you. And just do exactly that. You can just kind of do your pitch and talk through. And then if you need to call back later and say, okay, now I worked through this part, here's the next part. And we're doing that because sometimes you need to think about something, mull it over a little bit, bring it back to the table. Other people, are just right off the top of their head and they're clear and they're fine and they know what they want to do. So they're ready for the next level. We want to make sure we're covering all the levels because there's so much knowledge and expertise in this age group, and technology is allowing us to share it globally. So it's a perfect time to take advantage of that.
So speaking of the knowledge and the expertise, one of the other things I saw on your website is that you do also sometimes look for people to be mentors. Is that something that is sort of ongoing? Can people reach out to you and say, I've got this experience. Do you need someone?
Absolutely. We are always getting calls for people who are looking for someone with expertise or past experience in things. And it's interesting because sometimes that's the only thing they're missing is one little thing. And they would just love to have a conversation with someone and kind of hear how it goes. What went well, what they'd recommend or what they wish they would have done differently. And oftentimes, we have people that just say, well, I ran a Fortune 500 company and I was, a C-suite executive, but boy, starting over by myself, I'm used to having that team to constantly, run those ideas and those concepts by and talk through these things. And now it's just me, and they lose that fabric of having that support system. So oftentimes we can get them a mentor and then they get that fabric back. And that's part of, what we're always worried about is how are we giving back and helping people through relationships and sharing of knowledge. So they can always fill out the form on our website and mark in there that they'd like to be a mentor, and we'll reach out to them and get them into our database because we're seeing a need now more than ever as everyone's starting to filter off and do new things.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. So if someone were to call you or send you an email and just say, how do I start? What's the first step? What would you tell them?
Sure. So first thing I like to do is I have a little series of 5 questions that I reach out, and ask them to answer, which are basically, do you have a concept idea? And if so, what is it? When are you thinking of doing this? Have you tried doing it up until this point? What's your fallback idea? Everybody has a fallback idea. It's, I'm going to sell t-shirts on the beach. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go do this. And then the last question is, why do you want to do this? Because I want them to think through a little bit what it is that they want to do and why. And then we have a kickoff call and we talk through those things in a little more depth. And we talk about other things like, your comfort with technology. If you're really wanting to start selling things online and having a website and all, is that going to require support short term? And you plan on learning it all yourself? Is that going to be long term? You just never really want to learn how to do any of that. And planning, because you may want to learn, you may have an interest, but if your business takes off and goes really well, is that really the best use of your time that you're the one loading photos on your website? Yeah. So at that point, you need to hire someone to be doing some of those incidental things. So, we want to talk through and figure out comfort levels and things, and then help them move forward with whatever resources and tools they need, and then help guide them to get them going forward.
Oh, perfect. So if someone just has this idea that they've always wanted to do X, they can just write to you, like reach out and contact you and say, this is what I want to do. Let's get started, or how do I start? And then that gets the ball rolling.
Exactly. Yep. They can fill out the form on the website. Even if they don't want to write in what they want to do, if they just say, boy, I'd sure like to set up a kickoff consult because I have an idea, that's good enough. And I say that because sometimes people don't want to put their idea down because they're worried that their idea will get stolen. We're always worried about intellectual property. And we're always worried about, we have the next greatest widget, so we don't want anyone to know about it necessarily. If they just want to write in there, got an idea, really would like to talk to somebody about it and see, about getting guidance and help to get it launched, that's enough. We'll reach out and get them scheduled, and then we'll start the ball rolling, talking with them.
Perfect. And the best place to reach out is downingedtech.com. That's your website. Yes. And there's a contact form on there. I saw it.
Yep. Sure. That one will get to us for everything. And we religiously check it daily. So there won't be too much time lapse.
Awesome. So Sher, is there anything that you'd like to say that we haven't touched on about your business, about what you can offer people?
I think, the biggest thing is we really want to be here for you. We want people to move into phase 2. As someone personally who has moved into phase 2, it's a trial and it's a lot of fun. And you don't realize what's on the other side until you start doing these things. And you start looking at, how can I take my knowledge and my experience and work with people differently? And how can I bring something new to the table that maybe I've never gotten the opportunity to do? But even just the fact of we're now reaching a time where a lot of people are being sandwiched either between children and parents, or, companies are downsizing. Maybe you've recently lost your job, or you've been encouraged to retire. I heard that phrase the other day, encouraged to retire, offered early buyout and such. When you're not ready to go, sometimes that just kind of hits you and you think, wow, what do I do next? My identity is partially wrapped up in that role. And so,
exactly.
We want to help you find that new identity because it's out there, and the world now with technology allows you to do just about anything you want to do from just about anywhere you want to be. So, if we can help you even get started with that, there's a way to no longer be a VP of something and to be now a CEO of something else.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for being with me, Sher. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think I've learned a lot. I think probably the listeners have as well. Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. And that's it for this episode of Beyond Retirement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you ready to start rocking your retirement? Head on over to www.beyondretirement.ca/rocking it. And sign up to plan out your own roadmap for retirement. Don't wait till it's too late.